You know that feeling when you leave the salon and something just feels off. The haircut might be trendy, the blowout might be beautiful, and still, you look in the mirror and think, why doesn't this suit me? Here's the truth most people don't hear often enough. It's rarely about your age, and it's rarely about your hair not behaving. Most of the time, it's simply about shape. Your face shape quietly determines where volume should live, where length should stop, and whether bangs will brighten your eyes or accidentally hide them. In today's video on Timeless Wisdom Path, we're going to make this simple and empowering. I'll walk you through 4 common face shapes: oval, heart-shaped, round, and square. And I'll show you exactly how bob cuts, layered cuts, and face framing bangs can bring out your best features. Think of this as your friendly, calming guide before your next appointment, so you can sit in that chair knowing what you're asking for and why it works. Let's start with the balanced canvas. Oval faces. If you have an oval face, you've probably been told you can wear anything. And while that's mostly true, it can also be confusing. When everything seems possible, choosing becomes harder. So let's make it clear. The goal with an oval face isn't to fix anything. It's to highlight your eyes, cheekbones, and jawline without dragging the face down or overwhelming it with heavy bulk. A flattering bob for an oval face usually lands somewhere between the chin and the collarbone. If your hair is finer, a blunt bob can look very polished, but I want you to picture a blunt edge that still feels soft, like it has movement, not stiffness. If your hair is thicker, a bob with subtle internal layering removes weight, so it doesn't form that triangle shape at the bottom. The sweet spot for many women over 50 is a collarbone bob because it elongates the neck, frames the face, and still feels easy to style. Now let's talk layers, because layers are where oval faces can really shine. Long layers that begin around the cheekbone or just below it create a gentle lift effect. They guide the eye upward and inward, which naturally draws attention to your eyes. If you've noticed that your hair feels heavier than it used to, or it tends to fall flat at the crown, asking for light layers around the top and sides can bring back that airy softness without looking choppy. Face framing pieces are your best friend here, especially if you want to look fresh without doing something dramatic. The key is where they start. When face framing begins around the cheekbone and flows down, it creates a smooth contour that looks elegant and effortless. If it starts too low, it can pull the face downward. If it starts too high and too short, it can look harsh. You want that soft curtain effect that opens up the face. And bangs. Yes, bangs can be wonderful on an oval face. The most universally flattering option is a side-swept bang or a curtain bang that parts softly in the middle. If your goal is to draw attention to your eyes, ask for bangs that skim the brow or sit just below it, with blended sides that melt into the haircut. That little shadow and frame around the eye area can make your gaze look brighter, especially in natural light. When you go to the salon, your simple script could be, I have an oval face, and I want a collarbone bob or long layers with cheekbone starting face framing, plus soft curtain bangs to bring attention to my eyes. That one sentence saves you from a lot of trial and error. Now the romantic shape. Heart-shaped faces. Heart-shaped faces often have a wider forehead and a narrower chin, sometimes with pronounced cheekbones that are absolutely beautiful. The goal here is balance. You're not trying to hide your forehead or correct anything. You're simply guiding the eye so the whole face feels harmonious, soft at the top, gently fuller around the jawline, and open around the eyes. This is where the right bob can feel like magic. For heart-shaped faces, a bob that ends around the chin can sometimes make the chin look even narrower, especially if the ends tuck inward. Instead, a bob that hits just below the chin or at the collarbone tends to work better, because it adds a touch of visual width lower on the face. Even better is a bob that's slightly longer in the front, an angled lob, because it creates a graceful line that completes the lower half of the face. Layering is also important, but the placement matters. If the top layers are too short or too puffy, they add volume near the forehead, and heart-shaped faces usually don't need that. Instead, you want layers that start lower, around the cheekbones or jaw, so the fullness lives where you want balance. Imagine your hair creating a soft outline around the sides of your face, like a gentle frame that widens slightly as it goes down. Now, face framing bangs can be a game changer for heart shapes, especially if you've ever felt like your haircut looked top-heavy. Curtain bangs are one of the most flattering choices here. They visually narrow the forehead just a little, but more importantly, they create a pathway straight to the eyes. The best curtain bangs for heart-shaped faces usually start a bit shorter in the center, and then sweep down past the cheekbones, blending into the rest of the hair. That blend is everything. It keeps the look sophisticated instead of too done. Side-swept bangs are also wonderful, particularly if you wear glasses, or if you want something very low maintenance. A long side bang that brushes the brow and angles into the cheekbone area creates softness and brings attention to the eyes without making the upper face feel wider. If you're considering shorter hair, a textured pixie with a long fringe can be stunning on heart-shaped faces, but the fringe needs to be the star. You want length through the front to balance the forehead and add softness, and you want a little volume around the sides rather than straight up at the crown. Here's a simple styling tip that makes a big difference. Keep volume closer to the jawline, not the top. That might mean blow-drying with a round brush, focusing on flipping the ends softly outward near the bottom, or using a bit of texturizing spray mid-length rather than at the roots. What to ask your stylist? I have a heart-shaped face. I'd love a collarbone lob, slightly longer in front, with layers starting around the cheekbones and curtain bangs that open up my eyes. The soft and youthful shape, round faces. Round faces are naturally youthful looking, and that's a quiet gift. The goal with haircuts for round faces is usually to create gentle length and definition. Never sharp, never severe, just a little more structure so your features stand out clearly, especially the eyes. Let's start with bobs, because this is where many round-face women get disappointed. A bob that ends right at the fullest part of the cheeks can make the face look wider, even if the haircut is beautifully done. That doesn't mean you can't have a bob. It just means the length matters. A long bob that hits below the chin, closer to the collarbone, is often the most flattering. It creates a longer line through the face and neck, which visually elongates. If you love shorter bobs, you can still do it, but you'll want extra length in the front, or a shape that angles forward so the eye travels downward. Layers are your best ally, but only when they're placed correctly. Round faces tend to look best with layers that start below the cheekbone. If layers begin too high, the haircut can puff out on the sides, which adds width. Instead, ask for long layers that move and separate from about jaw level and down. That creates flow and keeps the sides from looking too rounded. Face framing pieces are where you can really make your eyes pop. A soft, longer face frame that starts around the cheekbone and slides past the jaw creates a gentle contour effect. It's like a visual outline that adds definition. If you want to emphasize the eyes even more, consider a diagonal line around the front. This is why side-swept bangs are so flattering on round faces. They create angles, and angles create structure. Curtain bangs can work too, but they need to be longer and blended. Very short curtain bangs can widen the face by putting emphasis right in the center. The most flattering version usually sits around brow level in the middle, then lengthens quickly past the cheekbones. The point is to create an opening for the eyes while keeping the sides sleek. One of the best quiet tricks for round faces is a bit of height at the crown. Nothing dramatic. Just enough lift to lengthen the overall look. You can do this with a blow-dry focused upward at the roots, or even by changing your part slightly off-center. A deep middle part can sometimes make the face feel wider, while an off-center part creates asymmetry that slims visually. If your hair is curly or wavy, don't fight it. You just want the shape to fall longer, not wider. That can mean asking for longer layers that encourage the curl pattern to cascade downward. A stylist who understands curl cutting can keep volume controlled on the sides while still letting your texture look healthy and alive. What to say in the chair? I have a round face. I want a collarbone lob with subtle length in the front, long layers starting below the cheekbone, and side-swept or long curtain bangs to draw attention to my eyes. Strong and striking. Square faces. Square faces have presence. The jawline is defined, the features photograph beautifully, and the structure gives you that naturally confident look. The goal with haircuts for square faces is usually softness and movement, adding gentle curves around the edges so the face looks balanced, while still honoring that gorgeous bone structure. With bobs, the biggest thing to avoid is a blunt chin-length cut with sharp, heavy lines. On a square face, that can echo the jawline too strongly and create a boxy effect. Instead, you want a bob that either sits below the jaw or includes texture and softness. A collarbone bob works wonderfully because it lengthens the face and allows movement through the ends. If you prefer something shorter, go for a bob with light layering and a slightly undone finish, so the edges don't look like a straight ruler line across the jaw. Layers are where square faces truly come alive. The best layers usually start around the cheekbones and continue down, creating a soft cascade that breaks up strong angles. Think of layers as your way of rounding the corners, not by hiding your face, but by adding motion around it. If your hair is thick, layers also prevent the cut from looking too heavy at the bottom, which can exaggerate the jaw area. Face framing is essential here. You want pieces that skim across the cheekbones and soften toward the jaw. If the face framing is cut too bluntly, it can look harsh. But when it's feathered and blended, it creates a beautiful, elegant contour. And if your goal is to draw attention to the eyes, this is exactly how you do it. Create soft lines that lead upward, then let the eyes become the focal point. Now bangs. Square faces often look amazing with bangs, when they're the right kind. Heavy, straight-across bangs can sometimes make the face look shorter and more angular. But side-swept bangs or curtain bangs add diagonal movement, which is incredibly flattering. That diagonal line is like a gentle filter over the angles of the face. It softens without hiding, and it naturally directs attention to the eyes. If you like a modern look, a shag-inspired layered cut can be stunning for square faces, especially over 50, because it adds lift and lightness. The key is to keep it refined, not messy, soft layers, blended ends, and bangs that feel airy instead of heavy. This kind of cut is also wonderful if you wear your hair with natural wave, because the texture helps soften strong lines. A small styling tip that makes a big difference: don't over-flatten the sides. Super sleek, pin-straight styling can emphasize the jawline. Instead, aim for gentle bend, either with a round brush, a large barrel iron, or even a quick twist and dry technique. You want the hair to move as you move, because movement is softness. What to ask for? I have a square face. I'd love a collarbone bob with soft layers starting at the cheekbones, blended face framing, and side-swept or curtain bangs to bring focus to my eyes. Final thoughts. Before you choose your next haircut, take a breath and remember this. The best style isn't the one you saw on someone else. It's the one that works with your natural features and quietly brings your eyes, your smile, and your confidence forward. Face shape is not a rule that limits you. It's a guide that protects you from disappointment. And once you know what to ask for, you walk into the salon differently. You sit taller. You explain clearly. And you leave feeling like yourself, just a little more refreshed. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path.